Today, we are excited. Welcome to Family First Alarm Family First. We are going to have a special guest today joining us.
Yeah, Katie Costa is with us, and this is kind of a fun story. So, Katie, I'd heard of you from my sister-in-law. She's like, you got to get together. You got to chat with Katie.
Yes.
And then she sent me, which I soon sent to Carolyn, an Instagram post that you did about your husband coming off shift, and he witnessed something that most of us can't imagine, right? Witnessing, let alone
Time.
Yes.
Craziness.
And then having to just kind of like put on his husband and dad hat and live life as normal. So we want to talk about this since it's what got our attention, and just kind of life in general from three women who have been married to firefighters. First, tell me about yourself. Tell us about your husband.
Well, I'm so honored to be on this podcast. So thank you, ladies, for having me. But my name is Katie Costa. I am a first responder wife. I'm also a mom of three beautiful children. My day job is I'm an ultrasound tech. I've been doing that for 20 years, but I'm also a content creator. So I'm kind of a jackass of all trades, master of none. But my husband works for the city of Fort Lauderdale. He's actually now the acting union president for the city of Fort Lauderdale. But him and our paths with our careers are very similar. He's been doing it for about 20 years. But I've been privy to so many mornings of him coming off shift and asking him, what was your shift like? In the beginning, when we didn't have kids, he would actually divulge a lot to me. And then over time, and as the years had gone on, he just would tell me things like, I'm like, what happened? He's like, I don't want to ruin your day too, and to me that gets, it's a little scary because I'm such an open book, and I'm like, I talk my anxieties out to him, and I never want him to hold anything in. Also, I know how prevalent the suicide rates are for first responders. So I never want to, it's always the people you don't expect, right? It's the happy people, the people that have seemingly a very good life and they can just let things go. But our brain it's not wired to see destruction and death and despair every day or every third day for our husbands, or wives, whoever you're married to. But I'm always happy to have this conversation because it's an important conversation that needs to be had and needs to be talked about more. So, but I'm happy to be here and chat because being a first responder wife is not easy. It's a lot of like solo parenting. I feel like I'm like a single married mom. And I never want my husband to come home and feel like he doesn't get peace at work. I never want him to come home and not feel peace at home because I do worry about the mental health and how much can your brain actually hold and how much can you see. He had come home from shift and actually he was, he's been the acting union president. So he is actually not on a truck anymore. This is new. This is new for us in our marriage. So, but he was coming, he did a detail or he got overtime. And I was of course like, hey, where you're at? Like he brings home Dunkin' Donuts every time he comes off shift. This is like a thing. So the kids were waiting. It was a Sunday and he's like, sorry, some guy just jumped off the 95 bridge. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but you're not on a rescue. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, I'm the closest person. He had his radio on him, of course, when he's in the city, and he was the first one there. No one else, not any rescue truck, not a nothing. No one was there. He was the first one there. He found the guy, and he obviously, shortly after, all the, fire trucks and the chiefs came, but he came home, and I was like, what happened? And he's like, yeah, some guy just, jumped off the bridge, and then he like went to the pool to start cleaning the pool. And I was like, this is not normal.
Yeah, you're like, you don't just say that.
This is not okay.
Yes.
And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, are you okay? Because is he okay? Are any of them okay? Right? It's a little paralyzing. Like I've worked in ERs. I've worked in hospitals most of my career, but I'm not the one pumping the people's chests. I'm not the one dealing with the family members. I'm not the one scraping people off of 95, when they're in massive car accidents. So to me, like even hearing him be there, it got me emotional, because I'm like, but he's had so many instances like that as a fireman, it's like, that's just their everyday and that's not normal.
Right. I think that's something that why we're having this conversation is as spouses, we're kind of left like, okay, well, they say they're okay and we take that and we believe them, but are they? They're not. So how can we better like help them? Because Alex would come home too. And it was just like a regular day. He got off the helicopter, obviously seeing the worst of the worst. And it was just like, all right, well, clean the pool, tend to, Alexander, do all the things with him. And it's like, do you want to talk about it? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
You're not. He wasn't.
No. And a lot of them aren't. And I think there's this macho feeling like, I'm a man, I got to beat my chest and say I'm okay. But it's okay to not be okay. I mean, unfortunately, it's just part of their job. Like, I do know that they have crisis teams that come in and do talk to them. And I think that there's a big push for the conversation. My father-in-law was a city of Fort Lauderdale firefighter for 30 years. Those conversations did not happen back then. They were like, push it under the rug, keep it going. So I do believe that the conversation is on the table. And because of the suicide rate is up so much, what is the percentage? I think like the national average is what, like 6% of suicide is, but like first responders, like 20 something percent, right?
This is 1 in 100, I believe, the last time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's very telling. Yeah. Like my father-in-law is like a gritty kind of guy. He would never cry over a patient, or, obviously the children, my husband's always like, everyone gets bent out of shape about the kids, of course.
Right.
But to see anyone die they're there on people's worst days of their lives, I mean, it's just like, how much can our brain hold? And eventually people crack, they break. And you just hope that you get to them before they actually ultimately do what they do. But I recall a couple years back, we had 2 young boys at the time. We have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. So our hands are full for sure. But he was taking a lot of overtime. And of course, I wanted to strangle him because I'm like, oh my God, I'm home with 2 boys. I'm like, I work, I'm taking OT, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
And he came home and seemingly nothing. Again, how was your shift? Didn't say anything. I'm like, okay. We go about our day, and I get a text from a friend of ours who is a chief. It's like, hey, if Keith is acting weird, please let me know. And I'm like, Mike, is everything okay? What do you mean? So he's like, oh, Keith didn't tell you. We ran a fire a few nights ago, and him and his crew went in, and there was a little girl who passed away, who perished in the fire. He told me none of this. Yeah. Nothing. I was like floored, and I could get emotional thinking about it because it's like, but I asked him about it, and he's like, we didn't save her though. Like, why would I tell you? Like, it wasn't heroic. And I'm like, are you crazy? You went into a burning apartment building. There was other children in the apartment building. And, I'm like, why wouldn't you tell me that? It was really like a changing point where I was like, okay, I need to ask more. Like, are you okay? And let's talk about it. Because honestly, I'm his wife, if not me, who, but that's just like a fraction of what these men and women deal with. And, I, as a spouse, like, it is really important that when he comes home, and I'm sure you both can attest this, you want this to be their safe space. You want them to just feel like at ease here. And it's hard when you're, a parent and you're a husband or wife and you're just trying to do all the things. But I'm way too mouthy and up his butt to not ask him, how are you doing? And sometimes he does tell me about stuff. And I'm like, oh, and I just listen. Sometimes they just need you to listen and be very, just in their own space. But it's interesting, it's never easy. And I'm so proud of him. I think there's just this like major adoration I have for him, not just because he's my husband, because of what he does. And my kids can look up to that. And I think that's like how great, but I would never want my children to have to live without their father, just like your son, Carolyn. So it's so important because dads are needed, moms are needed. Life is worth living, and nothing on earth can't be fixed. Like, everything's fixable, but in their head, they don't, when they're too far gone, I know there's a lot of resources for first responders, but will they take the advice? Will they go to these 3-month, whatever it is? And they're not rehabs. What are they, rehabs?
There's like rehab.
Retreats. That's what it is. Retreats.
So I feel that I was pretty lucky being raised by a firefighter because I kind of understood the dynamics of living with a first responder. Like your father-in-law, my father, super old school, like rolls his eyes at a lot of the episodes that we do, watches them, but rolls his eyes. But I do think they're sinking in more ways than one. Carolyn and I have talked about this part, and I want to ask you the same question that Carolyn and I have talked about. How was that adjustment when you and Keith, I believe, your husband, first got married, right? This first responder world, this firefighter world was new to you. So how was that adjustment? Were you like, what do you mean you're leaving? Or was it like, Was it easy? Missing holidays, missing parties, missing all kinds of stuff.
I mean, they miss everything, right?
Everything.
Like, what are they there for, actually? Like, I'm just like, for years before I had kids, like, people actually were like, you're not married, because he was never around. There's a lot of money to be made on overtime, and I get it. Like, I don't give him shit for that anymore, because I'm like, gotta make the money. But when we first started dating, I moved here within 5 months of dating him. I'm from New York City. I was living in Manhattan. And, I had dated firemen up there, but like, it's different here because they're on every third day for 24 hours. I know it's different in every city, but I didn't know what I was getting into. And then the loneliness that I felt as a wife, I'm like, I'm here in a different state and he's not around. I would fly home a lot because I was lonely, but it's an interesting life. I think over time, you almost get used to that. Every third day, you kind of have that like time to yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I don't want to say I look forward to it because I always want him around, right? It's so much easier when he is around, but it's definitely an adjustment because they're gone. I'm scared, I'm alone in this big house. I'm like, well, what if something happens? Then, you throw kids in the mix and it's just like absolute controlled chaos in a way. It's just like, I've really learned how to like do everything alone. Luckily, I'm a very social person, so I don't mind bringing 3 kids to Publix, which is also a nightmare, but I'll do it. Thank God for Instacart. Holy moly. But it really is a testament to the strength of a spouse of a first responder because it is not for the weak. And if you are at all needy, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult because I need him every day, but I've learned to do without. I'm like, all right, well, Keith's not here, so I guess I got to take the garbage out,
Right?
Yeah. And now I just do that. I also want to be wooed and like, be in my feminine, but like those third days when he is gone, I'm like, all right, kids, like I actually run a really tight ship when he is not around. Things go by very, like, pretty structured when he's not around because it has to be. If not, the inmates will be running the asylum.
When he comes back, does he try to mess around with your routine? Because that drives me crazy.
Yes. I'm like, it is 8 p.m. These kids need to be in bed. He's like, oh, and then, the thing is like, I'm expecting him to like jump on board to my routine. And the kids are like, but daddy's home. And I'm like, yeah, he could be the fun one. I guess I'm just the mean old mom, which I'm fine with. Let him be the fun one. It's fine. Someone has to say no. It'll be me. He's got enough on his plate.
Yeah. But it's true. You do learn to adjust. Like with me too, like I was very like feminine when he was there, but then the second he was out, I'm like, all right, listen, I'm the boss. We're going to follow my rules. And, even now people are very surprised on the way I'm handling things just because, I had to do it on my own a lot of the times, obviously it's a little different. He's not coming home, but you just learn to just adjust.
Yeah, it is a big adjustment. Did a lot of like, what's so funny? In the beginning of our relationship, like I always was, had dated guys. I was like, I'll call them, or text them all day. Remember the very beginning, I called him when he was on shift. He's like, he wouldn't answer. I called him like 3 times in a row. I'm like, why isn't he answering? And he's like, hi, is someone dead? I'm like, why? He's like, that should be the only reason why you call me. He's like, I'm way too busy. And at this time, he was working at Pembroke Pines Fire Department. He was there for a few years and he was on a busy rescue. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and then like I talked to other firewives or girlfriends and they're all like, yeah, we don't call them. You don't call them. And I'm like, what is this? Is like a new world. Like, so like, I felt a little like, sometimes, and I still say this, like with first responders, and I don't want to loop them all together because not all the same, but the lights are on, but no one's home. Sometimes I'm like, are you here? Where are you? Because I do think they're like, trying to unwind. I mean, how do you unwind after like a busy shift or like, like I remember him saying, he told me a story once that he ran a call. It was like, oh, someone was like feeling like vasovagal, and he's talking to the woman one time at like one moment and the next minute she's in cardiac arrest and she's dead. She died. And I'm like, and then you're just coming home. And so I get it, but it's an adjustment. It's like hearing war stories, really. You know what I mean? Like he would tell me stories in the beginning. Cause like I said, he doesn't want to tell me much now cause he doesn't want to ruin my day. But I'm like, that's crazy that that was last night. He's like, yeah, that was my shift. I'm like, what the hell why would anyone sign up to do this job? But someone's got to do it. And that's why I will put fire and police on a pedestal all day long. No, you do not know what they see, what they deal with when they put on that uniform. You have no clue. The people want to judge, and I'm a content creator, so like I remember in the beginning people would be like, "Oh, what is your firefighter husband just like playing video games and shopping at Publix?" That really pissed me off.
Yeah. Yeah.
That really bothers me. Like when they're in Publix, they're still that truck is still on shift. They don't take that truck out of service because they're shopping for food because they live at the firehouse. There's a lot of misconceptions about firefighters that I would love to debunk. And if someone just did ride-alongs with them, they would know. They'd be like, "Oh, this is crazy or exciting." Like it's which side do you fall on? I don't think I could do it. I'm not brave enough. I'm really not. That's why they're the bravest. They really are.
Yeah, they're dealing with human lives. I mean, I wouldn't want to, that would scare me, just knowing that there's like life or death situations. I can't.
Yeah.
It's stressful.
Going to a call knowing that you're probably going to be doing CPR on someone or life-saving, or you don't even know. Sometimes you just get to a scene. They don't know because whoever's calling 911 isn't descriptive enough. So they get to a scene and they're like, "What the hell? There's shootings." Keith was at a station that it was really nice. It was a little, I wouldn't say cushy, but it was on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. So I was like,
Nice.
I was like running drunk teenagers or like elderly falling and like the occasional trauma alert. But he's like, I want to get back into it. This is like last year before he became the union president. I'm like, "You want to get back on a busy truck?" Now he's a captain. So I'm like, what do you want to do that for? He's like, "I don't know. I don't want to, I'm not ready for this life yet," which is like, close, the older guys go to that station and kind of chill a little,
Right.
And he went to a really bad neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale. And one of his first shifts back was a toddler drive-by shooting.
Yeah.
He did tell me about that because I have a really good friend I have a few friends that are Fort Lauderdale PD, and they're females. They're amazing and badass. And they told me about it. And I was like, "That's sweet. That's Keith. That's where Keith." And I asked him, he's like, "Yeah, our guys ran that." I'm like, that's scary too, because when you're in more of a indigent area, you're getting those gang related shootings. I mean, the firefighters have been shot at before.
Right.
Not my husband, but I know that there's been crews that have gone out to do life-saving procedures for people and they're getting shot at. PD is, I didn't realize this, but PD goes first, clears a scene for them. Thank God for the police. But sometimes you can't control, certain scenarios. So I'm happy, doing my ultrasound job. I look at boobs all day. I look for breast cancer. It's a fabulous job. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with doing that. I'm like, I am safe here, although stressful in a different way. Because he'll say, "Your job, I wouldn't be able to do your job." Because it is more on a personal level. But my husband, he's like, "We're in, we're out." He does say police have it harder because the police have to stay on scene. They have to talk to the families. They have to get to know. They have to investigate. He's like, "Us, we're in. We get these people out. We try to save them." There's a lot of field saves. And my husband for many years curated the Medals Day event. And I got to be privy to so many amazing, heroic acts. It's so, if you're listening and if you are in a fire department and you don't go to those Medals Day events, you are missing out. You are missing out on some of the greatest saves, like mind-boggling things that your coworkers, your, colleagues are doing. There's 300 something people in a fire department. Like maybe they'll get like 70 to 100 people. Like they're the most incredible events I've ever been to. Very inspiring and makes me feel so, so happy that we live in this day and age where people like that exist. Human beings like firefighters and police exist. And, it makes me, I can sleep safe at night, it's soundly at night, knowing that like, if shit hits the fan, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. And a lot of those situations are not sometimes on shift, they're off shift. And
all the time.
Because I remember we would be at places and something would happen and Alex would be there because they just feel like, it's my duty. I'm always working. So yeah.
They really are, because when someone yells doctor,
yeah,
it's like, well, I don't want to discredit physicians. I work with them all day long. They have a very hard life and too many years of schooling, but paramedics, firefighters, they're like on scene physicians at the time. They know what to do. They can work under pressure. That's what they're trained for. They are trained to do that. Actually, when my husband and I were long distance, he was flying up a lot to New York City because Kelly days. This is another thing about being a fire wife. I'm like, what the hell is a Kelly day? I don't know what a Kelly day is, but he would fly up a lot more than I would come down. And I'm following him on Spirit Airlines. This is when like Spirit Airlines had like $8 flights. And I see his plane like kind of circling over like North Carolina. I'm like, oh, well, there goes that relationship. He's dead. Is probably crashed somewhere. Like I was like, what the heck? And I'm calling him. He's not a phone guy. He finally picks up. He's like, I can't talk. I just did CPR on the plane. Click. What? So of course I was like, I'm not calling him again. Flies into New York City. Our thing was we always met at this bar. I'm like, meet me at, this bar we always went to. I'm like, what happened? He's like, Katie, I was boarding the plane. I'm looking at this guy. He's in a wheelchair. He's like, I knew he was going to die. He's like, I looked at him. He looked like he was going to die. I'm like, how do you know? He's like, Katie, once you see that look, you know the look. You know the look. You know the look of death. And I'm like, okay. He's like, they sat him in the first row. He goes to use the restroom. This is a very big thing. People bear down and your vagus nerve and they go into cardiac arrest. And so he's at the back of the plane because, we're 25 years old trying to save as much money as we can, Spirit Airlines. They're like, can we get a doctor? Some I don't know, eye doctor, podiatrist, I don't know. Some doctor stands up, can't do anything, right? They're just, and he did perform life-saving acts on him. They didn't have, what he needed, like all the drugs that they do use as paramedics. Because if you are listening, and you don't know, EMTs cannot administer narcotics. Only paramedics can. So they didn't have, some sort of adrenaline, whatever he needed. And the man ended up passing away. But Spirit Airlines let him fly for free for a year.
Wow.
Can you imagine? And so he comes off the plane. He's like, yeah, that happened. So can I get a, Corona?
Another day in the life. Yeah.
That was actually my very first interaction as a first responder, girlfriend. I was like,
I'm in love.
I was right? like, all right, let's get back to my apartment, babe. But yeah, it's an interesting world. It's a lovely world. It's weird and fun and the camaraderie. Like I love going to any firefighter event. It's always so fun. They are some of the most amazing people I've ever been around. I know that if something ever happened to my husband, that I would be taken care of by the fire department. And I don't know, Carolyn, if you could attest to that, yes. But these are some men and women that they're forever, they're family.
It's family. Yes, I agree.
They're your fire family.
Yes.
So it's really great to be a part of.
It really is.
Yeah.
I love that you touched on when things happen, people are like doctors, okay, firefighters. It happened at the softball field the other day, and there's 5 kids usually per team with a firefighter parent for some reason. Yeah. They're like, wait, none of the firefighters are here. Like everyone was freaking out. What are we going to do? Because, unfortunately a kid got hurt. She was fine.
Yes.
In that moment, that's who they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, Katie, that you said Keith has been on 20 plus years. If I heard you correctly.
Yeah, I think he's about to hit 20 years.
So, he's still a ways away. We have realized the importance, especially when it comes to firefighters and police officers, planning for retirement. Forget the financial part of it, but more of the mental part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, how's your life going to look now? Do you guys have those conversations now? I know we're starting those conversations. I know Carolyn and Alex were having those conversations. Do you have those conversations now?
We do have those conversations because I see a lot of guys retiring and then they go somewhere else. They go to another fire department. It's almost like they can't be alone with their thoughts. They can't. That's why I do believe that a lot of them turn to alcohol. There's a lot of alcoholism in the fire department. Listen, there's functional, right, which is still alcoholism, but we do talk about it, and he is very firm on when he retires, he is not going to another firehouse. I don't believe him.
Would you want him to, or would you want him to know?
I want him to chill.
Yeah.
He is going right now. He's the fire union president, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
He's actually, petitioning for many things. I think there's a lot of talk about my husband was on I think he was on, I don't want to speak for him, but I believe at one point he was on the trauma response team when someone did die by suicide in a department. There are other firefighters, not just these outside companies that come in and talk to the firefighters, but I do believe he was on that team, and he has a lot of insight, and he is fighting for firefighters, for the city of Fort Lauderdale's firefighters every single day to make sure that they are set, not only financially, but mentally. That's why he's great at his job. And that's why also sometimes I'm like, can you get off the phone and pay attention to me? But he is a firefighter. He will always champion for firemen and firefighters. And we talk about it all the time. I really would love for him to like chill and sit on a beach and do nothing. But a lot of them can't. They're high energy people.
Good at doing nothing.
No, they can't sit around. And, you know, I love that he's in this position now because I get to see a different side, that he really is on the side of the firefighters. And it's so important. I know I heard him over like talking, like he's trying to get like cannabis use, you know, at a reasonable, you know, nothing crazy, but he's like, I'd rather see like my guys, my girls, like go home and like, you know, pop a THC gummy 2 milligram than like drink a bottle of Jack. Like these are conversations that are new, and like the old school or some people will not like that. But what is the difference between that and like drinking in excess? You know? So those are conversations I have with him. You know, his wheels are always spinning. He really is great at his job. I'm so proud of him. I'm proud to be his wife. And I really hope that when he does retire, we're not in the drop yet. I'm always like, what is the drop? What is the drop? What does this mean?
Big conversation.
Yeah. But he has about 6 more years, I think, until he's in the drop. But he's like, Katie, when I'm done. But I don't believe him. I don't believe him.
Katie,
I don't believe him for 1 minute.
Is Fort Lauderdale still, is it a 5-year drop, or is it more than 5? Do you know?
Actually don't know. I want to say 5-year. Don't quote me. Is it 6-year? This is what their negotiations are on all the time with the fire union. So I want to say it's 5-year. I'm probably wrong, but all I know is that the wives are very happy when the drop money comes. That's all I know. I'm like, when's that drop money coming, baby? Bring it on.
It's such a double-edged sword with all of that, because
right. Yeah, well, it's always going to be spent, especially with children, you know?
Yeah,
and your kids are getting older, right?
I was going to say, just wait, Katie, till they're older. I'm not taking
right
away.
Now they're little, mine.
Yeah, I'm not taking away. Trust me, I remember that phase too. Right, Carolyn? But high schoolers are a whole new ball game.
We were just talking about that. They have
just
like
take the wheel
attitude, and I'm like, I want to just.
Yeah. But I have a preteen, and that alone, he's driving me up the wall. I'm like, God help me. It's crazy.
How do they, and we're almost out of time, but quickly, your kids, and again, they are younger than our kids, but still, do they look at their dad as a hero? Do they realize the seriousness that comes with his career? And if they don't, that's okay, right? We don't want
they do. We talk about it a lot. We do, because I want them to know that daddy has a big job, and he would never show that to them, you know, like he would never be like, guys, my day was terrible. The great thing, they could turn it on and off. But my boy, I have 2 boys, 11 and 8, and then my daughter's 3. We had a little surprise, our little princess. So she doesn't know much. She just is like, my daddy's a firefighter. She told her teacher that yesterday. He's a chief, which he's not. He's a captain. But my boys, the look in their eyes, you can't explain it. They idolize him. I am like dust. Like he comes in the door, they're like, see you later, Mom. Because he's just a well-rounded human being. And what a great example for my children. Working, caring, brave, loving. It's all the things. It's really great.
We love it. And we understand that. We get that. And they deserve to be looked at like that.
They do.
Definitely their children, but from everybody in the community.
Yes.
Katie, you are so fun. Can you let everybody know your Instagram so that they can follow you?
Absolutely. If you want to come to my page and be de-influenced and laugh a little and have a little lightheartedness, please follow me at the Katie Costa on Instagram and TikTok.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great. I love this.
And we always remind everybody who watches, if you see something, to sound the alarm.
Save a life.
Bye, guys.
Bye.